Bases dropped. I hope you're dry because I think it's going to be one of those days. John, hear you there? Sorry, I was trying to get something cut before Bart Keeler drops in at 9:30. So here's the rundown for today. Thursday thoughts. Because of what happened yesterday in the league that has the singing song, that I don't know if we can even sing that. I don't know if you want me singing, period. But the league with the singing song for the introduction for everything that has to be played, they had some moments yesterday. So Bart, figuring his ears were burning, decided that it's like, hey, yo, do you need me for Reffingdownhere? And I was like, well, duh. Obviously we do. And so Bart's going to be in at 9:30 to discuss Reffingdownhere with what went down yesterday. And obviously, since it's Thursday at 10:30 Eastern time, that means that Niko Moreno joins us at 10:30 to go through everything in Major League Soccer, anything else on his mind, what happened last night, all across the board. So that is where we are. We've also got Open Cup to talk about, and we've got high school to talk about. Remember, Soccer's in Session presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente for all that is you. That's at noon. Brian Messer, the assistant head coach for McIntosh, joining us off the top. We'll see who else can join us on a really rainy, nasty day. We'll see if we can distract Maddie long enough to get her to drop by. We'll see if Luke Winstow can drop by because of the action that was called yesterday. And we will go through high school. We've got Open Cup, and like I said, we got all these things. We have all the things. Morning forecast. And so we'll be getting into what happened yesterday all across the board. But opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there is your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Actually, let me do this because now that the Alliance Nurse Corps banner has been improved and elevated, so I don't want you to be, getting QR codes confused, conflicted, and conjoined. So that's the QR code for Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Morning, Alex. Don't forget, you use that QR code. You kick off your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchases. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. Yesterday was the other 9 matches in the Open Cup that did not happen on day one that included Atlanta United and their win with Charlotte Independence. We now know who Atlanta United is going to be playing in the next round, and it is going to be the Charleston Battery. We got the matchups ready for the round of 16. So yesterday, following what happened, Tuesday was fairly tame. Short of the moment where you had goalie-on-goalie penalties, it was pretty tame. Atlanta United wins 3-0. Loudoun won at Orange County. They're going to stay out there, and all apologies to the Orange and Black. But they beat them. They're hanging out there, and they're going to keep playing this weekend. So yesterday, and the way that I traditionally will refer to it, please get your beverages ready. The way that I kind of refer to Open Cup when they have 2 days of competition, if one day is calm, kind of like we have in the March and April college basketball tournament, in the opening rounds where 5s and 12s play and 4s and 13s, and you end up with all kinds of chaos, then the second day is going to have that kind of chaos. And it did. It did not disappoint. So yesterday, Charleston and South Georgia Tormenta, they decided to go and just swing at each other for 120 minutes. And it took 120 minutes. And literally it happened at the death for Charleston to get the win. And as we have always said, do not discount South Georgia Tormenta in any of these situations. And last night was no different because it was 2-1. You had Myers ended up, and Delkin, I don't know if Dell has even recovered from what happened last night. So you end up with a goal on the board for Charleston Fonseca ties it for South Georgia. And then they score again, meaning Charleston at 45 plus 3. Then South Georgia, Tormenta scores at 83 minutes. 120 plus 1 off a deflection. South Georgia, Tormenta trails by that point, and they end up losing 3-2. So Charleston Battery, 3, South Georgia Tormenta, 2. That one was in AET. That took 120 minutes. Indy 11 over San Antonio. They no longer, I guess, call it the Mike at Ooey Pooey. They played the Bud and Jackie Selleck Bowl. 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, and Indy 11 cruised from there. Phoenix, in a game that finished 10-10, that included a red card to Lawrence Wyke in the 24th minute. Phoenix, by the way, scores in the 9th minute. They get a 1-0 lead. Lawrence Wyke gets a red in the 24th. So Phoenix is down to 10 men for 66 minutes at least. Paco Craig, not to be outdone, says, tell you what, we'll go ahead and make it 10-10. So you end up with a red for Lawrence Wyke, and then 16 minutes later, man advantage is gone for North Carolina FC. 10-10. Phoenix has the lead until the 80th minute. North Carolina FC scores. 1-1, they go to extras. North Carolina scores it in the 94th minute, so they've got the lead. Not so fast, my friend. Where's my number 2 pencil? I wish I had a number 2 pencil. And so then Doradioto scores in the 111th minute. And so Phoenix ends up with oh no, wait, my bad. I'm misreading this. So it was two reds for North Carolina, red in the 94th from Armstrong. So then Doradioto scores in the 111th with the match tied at 1, and then you end up with 2-1 win for Phoenix. The game finished 10-9. This one is the surprise of the night. NYCFC 2. MLS Next Pro side. Remember, they had the match of the tournament so far. All of the chaos that happened in the match previous, where they go to Hartford and you end up with the best coach assistant yelling on a parab that you will ever have. If you can find the match, you don't watch the first 90 minutes. Watch everything from 90 to the end. Take a half hour while you're doing your lunch break. Go back to the previous round and watch the end of Hartford and NYCFC 2. We said on this show yesterday, NYCFC 2 would be the cup set because of Colorado Springs and their horrible start. And you're playing on top of a parking structure. Game on. Ball. NYCFC 2 gets the Duke. They score in the 6th minute. Switchbacks get a red in the 88th. They don't score. On the campus of St. John's University at Belson Stadium on top of a parking structure. NYCFC 2 advances to the next round, winning 1-0. And that one wasn't even the match of the night. Tell me if you've heard this one before. Tampa Bay has a lead. Tampa Bay gets you a lead. Rivera scores in the 25th. Cal Jennings had a hat trick. A natural hat trick for Tampa. 2 of those goals got him to the half. 3-0 at the half, Tampa Bay over Birmingham. And I'm sure that Keeler Hodges has yet to recover from this match. 3-0 at the break. Jennings gets his natural hat trick in the 79th minute. 11 minutes to go. Tampa has a 4-0 lead. They don't keep it. Enzo Martinez, little ball of hate, scores in the 82nd. Hernandez Foster scores in the 89th. Tyler Pasher scores at 90 plus 3. Tyler Pasher gets a pin at 90 plus 6. They're tied at 4. Silliness, I tell you. So 4-4, and they go to extras. They go to the extra 30. Manuel Arteaga got the hat trick the other way. Scores in the 101st, scores in the 109th, and then got a red card at 120 plus 3. Tampa wins it 6-4. First set. So Tampa had a 4-0 lead, blew it, scored 2 to lead 6-4. The guy that scored the natural brace gets a red card, and he's out the door, and Tampa hangs on 6-4. Like I said, tell me if you've heard this stuff before. Not to be outdone. We had a Lagos Kunga sighting last night as your Murder Owls of Union Omaha hosted Sporting Kansas City at the Caniglia Field on the campus of Nebraska, Omaha. Lagos Kunga gives Union Omaha a lead. 1-0 at the break. Ziona scores in the 48th, and they had to go for a while. Literally, Alan Polito scored at the death. 120th minute. Sporting Kansas City advances 2-1. New Mexico United, in a surprise, thumped RSL 3-1 at the half. Zico Bailey scores twice in 2 minutes at the lab. 3-0. It was 2-1 after Fidel Barajas scored. Not to be outdone, 3-1 at the break. Diego Luna scored in the 49th to make it 3-2, and then New Mexico United scored again to get a 4-2 win. LAFC ended up beating Vegas Lights, but not before Steve Cherundolo got a red. Kai Kamara scored. Oliveira scored. 3-1 winners there. And in penalties, we knew this one was going to be sneaky. I don't know if Niko Moreno is actually going to be awake. I really don't. Seattle and Louisville and Lou City at Starfire. 90 minutes, forget it. 120, forget it. They went to pens. Lou City with the miss. Seattle advances 5-4 on penalties. Paul Rothrock and Danny Masofsky scored to get a 2-0 lead. They couldn't keep it. Sean Tosh, a pen 4 minutes later. And then Gonzalez Asensi scored in the 89th. So Lou City takes Seattle right to the wall, but Seattle advances. So to recap last night, one match goes 120 minutes. You get a goal at 120 plus 1. You had a normal one. You had another one go 120 minutes that finished 10v9. The lone MLS Next Pro side that survived, the lowest the lowest of the low divisions, NYCFC 2 beat a USL championship team in Queens, New York, on top of a parking structure. Tampa had a 4-0 lead, lost it, won 6-4, going the extra 30 minutes. Union Omaha had a lead, lost it. They go the extra 30 minutes. Sporting Kansas City wins. New Mexico United beat RSL. LAFC won, but their coach got a red. And Seattle and Lou City went to penalties. 5-4, one missed by Lou City, and Seattle advances. So that's what happened last night in Open Cup, people. So we now know the next round, round of 16. It's going to be in 2 weeks' time. Atlanta travels to Charleston. Tampa and FC Dallas. Sporting and FC Tulsa. Seattle and Phoenix. Sacramento, San Jose. I still think that division goes through Sacramento. LAFC Loudoun. Yikes. Just when Loudoun thought that they had to travel. Indy 11, Detroit City, and NYCFC 2, and New Mexico United. So you've got all of that happening. That's the round of 16, May 21, 22. Home teams, Charleston, Tampa, Sporting, Seattle, Sacramento, LAFC, Indy 11, and NYCFC 2. So that's what you've got in the round of 16. So, yes, after what happened with the calm of the night before, where you did have upsets, Philip Goodrum scores, and Bob Lilly is still probably yelling at his team after losing at home at Highmark. He probably threw him in the river. You had the goalie-on-goalie crime in the PKs with Houston and Detroit City. FC Dallas just got the one goal on the board. San Jose beat Oakland. Loudon, I think, was a surprise going to Orange County and knocking off the Orange and Black attack, and then Sacramento beating Monterey Bay. That really wasn't a whole lot of surprises on the evening. But you had 5 matches go the extra 30 minutes, 4 technically. The 5th went to PKs. Of the 9 matches last night, more than half of them went the extra 30 minutes. 2 matches were normal. 2 matches were upsets. One of them involves an MLS Next Pro team. You like apples? Hey, like them apples. That's your Open Cup, kids. So I'm trying to see if we can have a recap of that tomorrow. And Emilio, I think that Atlanta United is taking it seriously, because Emilio says it needs to take the Open Cup serious. Maybe we can be surprised. I don't know if surprised is the right term, but there have been teams where Sporting Kansas City comes to mind. Sporting Kansas City a couple of years ago had a deep run in Open Cup, and they were outside of the playoff. They were under the playoff line when the Open Cup run started, and it jump-started their season. We talk about Zombie Sounders a lot. Zombie Sporting happened a couple of years ago. Outside of the playoff picture, got a cup run in, got their season jump-started. You had the acquisitions that they had in the summer help out with that. Sporting made it into the playoffs. I know that's a bit of an extreme example comparing it to Atlanta United right now, considering how far back Sporting was at the time when they were getting involved in Open Cup. It was a far distant run for Zombie Sporting than it was with anybody else. So it'll be intriguing. It will be intriguing. It will be intriguing as well. So we'll see what's going on. We might have some guest collisions, so we'll see what's going on here. So hang on just a second. Let's see. So I'm trying to sort out some guest collision here. Okay, just say so. Hang on just a second. I know this is making for. I feel like I should have dialing music or something. Okay, so we've got that. All right, so we'll see what's up with possible guests and things like that. So we'll see what's going on. All right, so we got that coming on later. So like I said, Bart's supposed to be in at 9:30 to talk Reffingdownhere and what happened to UCL yesterday. And then Niko is at 10:30 as he always is. But no, but like I said, with Open Cup, I think that you do take it seriously. I mean, you're in the final 16. Right now, it's you win 16, you're down to the 8. You win the 8, you're down to the 4. You win the 4, you're down to the 2. And then you're 4 wins away from hardware. So I could see. I could totally see something where any team right now is going to take it seriously. And so, you're trying to balance things right now. So we'll see what's up. Like I said, Bart Keeler joining us in about 5 minutes to talk Champions League and to talk Reffingdownhere. And yeah, I don't know if we can get. I don't know if there are times when you sit there and you're watching something and you're going, I don't know if I can stare at this with a straight face. You had so many moments yesterday. And Four Card says that it was the league is fixed. So we'll see what's up with the league being fixed and the title being fixed. So yesterday in Champions League, it was how do we say, intriguing. Thomas Tuchel, Matthijs de Ligt. Matthijs de Ligt apparently had a conversation with the linesman. Linesman said some things. I don't know if the linesman said some things or if you can publicly sit there and say them, but we'll see what's going on. But yeah, so suffice to say it was intriguing. And so naturally, everybody's sitting there and wondering, okay, well, is Harry Kane cursed? All those kinds of things. That's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And here's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, as I cover up once again our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, I don't want you to get your QR codes confused. That's your QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, quickly. Trying to use 3 hands. Okay, there we go. That's some housekeeping. And that is the scarf. And it was great to catch up with folks at Fifth Third. And it was great to catch up with folks across the board. And it was great to hand some scarves out, too. It was great to hand some scarves out and have folks explain to their friends who were wondering why they were getting a Marshall Islands scarf what the story is. But that's the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Very, very cool stuff from them. And this money goes straight to them so they can help build a program from scratch. And it's great to be a part of something from the initial stages of something. And you probably got the jersey. You probably have the bucket hat. So we figured we'd add a scarf. So these are 32. You can either do it through their website, and then you'd end up paying for a shipping charge. Morning, Rich. And so you end up paying a shipping charge through the website, or if you just DM me, DM the show, there's a form in the Discord where if you fill it out, Abby can deliver it to you. Or if you want me on this side of the Atlantic to send it to you, it's like an extra $5. So 32 if you just want Abby to deliver it to you, if you want me to hand it over. Or if you just want to go through the Marshall Islands site and just have them have the freight and have that as almost like a tip off the top. You could do that too. But 32 if you want it delivered by either Abby or me. And if you want it thrown in the mail, 32 plus 5. So 32 and 5 is 37. So you can help out that way and help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And our dear Maddie today is graduating. And so that's later today. And thankfully it's indoors so the kids at Kennesaw State can stay dry about anything and everything when it comes to the next stages of their lives. Okay, 9:30, or actually technically it's 9:29. So I'm going to filibuster because I can look in the green room and see that folks are still kind of busy. Well, at least he was. And then he put his phone down. He hurriedly put his phone down. Well, but no, I'll show that. No, I'll show that on camera. So I filibustered enough. Bart, Keeler happening. So you can sip your coffee. I sip mine.
Good morning, y'all.
Morning. So what's the mug today?
Good morning, Baltimore, from the musical Hairspray.
There you go. So yeah, but that's the thing is like I'll show people having caffeine and stuff on the air. That's never a problem. I mean, this is an antiquated Chick-fil-A kickoff classic cup from when Auburn played Clemson on some nebulous Saturday in September. Got 38 years ago that I still have the mug for. I'll show people with caffeine.
U.S. soccer news from Rich Ransom. By the way.
Okay, well, hang on. I
do want to call. I checked the link and it was worth. It's worth talking about.
Okay, well, hang on. Okay, all right. So I did get this news release, and so what I'll do is I'll do Rich one better instead of just the video release part of the whole thing.
Boom.
So there you go. 4-year-old Kevin Sullivan. I'm not too far off. But from the Philadelphia Union, they have signed Academy product Kevin Sullivan in record homegrown signing. This is their wording. The 14-year-old Union Academy product and YSC student, whatever YSC stands for. I'm sure the release will tell me in short order. But Kevin Sullivan, 14 years old, done got signed by Philadelphia Union. Joins the Union as the youngest signee in club history. CONCACAF U15 Golden Ball winner. Largest deal for a homegrown player in MLS history. Signed through 2028 in an MLS record deal. Sullivan, who joined Philadelphia Union Academy at 10 years old, so basically 15 minutes ago, becomes the youngest player in club history to be added to the first-team roster, the fifth youngest player to sign a first-team contract in MLS history. Assets for media use, click for photo and video. Let's see. Quote from Ernst Tanner. That's one paragraph. Quote for Kevin Sullivan. That is a second paragraph. Joined the Union Academy in 2020. And the wording from Philadelphia Union. Has quickly progressed through the pro player pathway. Say that 10 times fast. Is featured for Union Academy's U15 MLS Next, U17 MLS Next, Union 2 MLS Next Pro. Making a name for himself both with the Academy as well as with U.S. youth national teams. Generation Adidas Cup. Sullivan, who was just 13 years old at the time, helped Union U15 squad reach the finals, beating Academy powerhouses such as Valencia, Arsenal, and Real Madrid. With Sullivan scoring 1 minute into the match against Arsenal. Sorry, Bart. With his outstanding play, he was named to the tournament's best XI. This year, Sullivan joined the U17 squad, where he contributed to the team winning their second consecutive GA Cup championship. Additionally, in 2024, featured for Union 2, appeared twice, added an assist and game-winning goal against Revolution 2. CONCACAF Boys U15 Championship, first time that the U.S. ever won that tournament in 23. Youngest player on the team, 4 goals, earned him Golden Ball. Should Sullivan debut for the Union on or before July 29, he'll become the youngest player to make his debut among the top North American professional sports leagues, as well as the youngest player to make his debut among the top 5 European soccer leagues. Transaction. I feel like Lee Hamilton. Transaction. Philadelphia Union signed Kevin Sullivan through 2028 because when he turns 18, he going to Manchester City. Bart, what do you think?
Well, look, this is big news for U.S. soccer as a whole. Pretty cool news for MLS and, great for Kevin and his family. It's no secret that Philadelphia is one of those clubs in MLS who prioritizes the academy structure, the academy system. And, I hope that we have more clubs who see the value of not just having an academy, but signing and playing the kids. Obviously Philly's in a position where they're not making the big money, big name signings that say, Atlanta or LAFC might do. Mm-hmm. That kind of does sometimes get in the way of the kids playing, but they've been really good at integrating those youngsters into the team. I mean, you can look at, who Kevin will probably play next to if he's playing, Quinn Sullivan, and look at the impact he's had on the team this season, and the impact he's had, and really the Philadelphia Union Academy has had on the youth national teams. There's a couple of brothers playing in Europe right now from that same academy. This is good, right? This is what you would like to see from, maybe not quite this young, but this is what you want to see from more MLS teams of really investing in youth development, the scouting, the development, and then leading that to the pipeline of actually being a professional player.
Yes. Thank you, Rich, for letting me know. YSC is the in-house academy / school that the Union have. And one of the things I know that we sit there and we are gravitate toward in concerns is what is too young in signing these things. But if you are prudent with your growth, if you're not going to rush anybody and you let it continue to just grow as both a player and as a young adult and as a young man in this case, then you try not to have Freddie Adu 2.0.
Right.
And that, I think, is, and I'm hoping that was a warning sign when it happened that has been retained by MLS clubs about the dangers of doing something like that and pushing someone to the front of the line for the sake of pushing them to the front of the line and going, hey, look here,
right. Right. And that, I mean, I think there's still some concern with that with Kevin, and that he'll be rushed a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think Philadelphia is at a point in their club's, standing and performance that they don't need to do this to A, get fans in the stands, or B, be a successful team on the field. They're doing that pretty well right now. So hopefully that gives, a platform for a youngster like Kevin to grow, to develop, to, as you put, grow as an actual human as well, both vertically and, spiritually, mentally, physically. Those are important because you don't want to send a kid over to Europe without a proper head on their shoulders.
Into the city football group at the same time.
City football group specifically, right? That is, it's impressive, right? Like this, at the end of the day, this is really impressive for Kevin, and this is a really cool news story. But there does need to be some level of not caution necessarily, but patience. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. This discussion has been had over on the NWSL side for, because I think if I can be a little bit, critical of some of the NWSL fans, they're a little too concerned with player mental well-being, assuming that all players are fragile little babies who aren't able to look out for themselves.
Right.
But this has been an issue with some of the NWSL players where, we had, thanks to Olivia Moultrie, breaking down that barrier to get youngsters into the league, because at some point it is important that a 15, 16, 17-year-old, and at this case, 14, and Olivia's even younger, they do warrant professional playing time, professional practicing, all of those things that come with being a pro player. Some kids are able to handle it. It's not every kid. Some kids can handle it. And Kevin so far seems to have shown that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the NWSL, obviously you mentioned Olivia Moultrie. You've got,
I love Rich's comment, by the way.
Oh, well, but that's absolutely true. It's like
it's so true.
He was, you're on a bench, and there was another player that had a birthday that had to have, things shift in a certain way. Kimi Ascanio signs with San Diego. You've got Alex Pfeiffer, who scores for Kansas City and for Current. You've got Olivia Moultrie. And so you have those instances for the NWSL to learn and grow from.
Yep.
And the thank you, Pennsylvania, for your child labor laws.
Maybe he needs to go play in Kentucky. They don't believe in child labor laws there.
Hey, well, get him to go play for Union 2 and have him go play against FC Cincinnati 2 when they're playing in Northern Kentucky or something. Can't play after 7:00, and so he can only play a few matches. So figure out when he's on the road. And when you can see, well, actually, now that I think about it, hang on just a second.
It doesn't change as you get older, because I play with some people who can't play after 10:00, so I get it.
Well,
that's our bedtime.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the shtick I was gonna get into. It's like, I can't play after 10. I just can't play. Period. All right, so mark your schedules, people, and I'm trying to see if, in fact, Philadelphia. Oh, okay. So it's the last match of the year, but it's at Subaru Park. So that's disappointing. So Philadelphia Union 2 on a decision day, hosting Atlanta United 2, but it's at Subaru Park, September 29th at 3:00. And so the Union 2 do not show back up in this building, considering that they already played here in April. They don't come back like Carolina Core did. But Ropes turns into a pumpkin after 10 p.m. And that's pretty much all of us at a certain age and mobility. But it's good for the league in a couple of different ways, that you have this kind of player development, that you have the interest of a city football group that is going to pay the pretty penny, which is why you develop players as a part of the process, as to why you develop players, to sell them on, to help out your own economy within your own ecosystem, so you can continue to do it. And it proves that your pathway for development is doing the right things. Yes, and
and this is what Atlanta United obviously wants to hope that, Edwards and Gordon will turn into. Especially I think Gordon is the one that people were looking at that could be really special. But I will say I was impressed with all three of the youngsters that played on, what was that, Tuesday night? What year?
I know. It was Tuesday night. It's all running together. Right there with you.
Also, I will say it's weird to not think of Jay Fortune as a youngster anymore, John. We're getting old.
Only
not
on,
exactly
only on
old,
a driver's license, brother. That's only on a driver's license.
I know. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you end up with you see Matt Edwards, you see Ashton Gordon, you see Noah Cobb continue to develop. The thing is about Noah Cobb is that Noah Cobb has been around for 3 years. I mean, he has not been intimidated by anything since he wandered in at the age of 15 and was starting to play with Atlanta United too. I mean, dude didn't even have a driver's license, and he's already getting reps for the twos. And now you're seeing what that development is doing. Slow and steady wins the race. Season 3, he's getting minutes for the first team, and you see what we've all seen with the twos with Noah Cobb, and now what we've seen with Efren Morales. That development is there as well, but you're starting them when they're 15. Just that in this case with Philadelphia, Kevin Sullivan's 14, and he's getting that big jump when it comes to attention and, hey, look over here. Where Atlanta United, they're doing their thing, and it's just been slow and steady. And then by the time somebody starts at 15, they're 18, their first team, and they're ready to go.
Well, and again, I think that there is a legitimate reason why Atlanta United hasn't seen the number of young players, because despite what people do think, Atlanta United has a pretty good academy compared to other teams in MLS. And the legitimate problem, as I pointed out, is we do go by a lot of good players
up front.
And so that means that, you're not necessarily needing a youngster to come in and take over as a left winger. We have a lot of backup space for that. I mean, you look at, Tyler Wolff, that's basically why he has earned first team contracts, because he was able to be a great understudy. But it's good to see Atlanta United at least trying to integrate the youngsters. And that to me is one of the most important reasons why MLS needs US Open Cup, because it is a legitimate concern to talk about match fixture congestion when you talk about Open Cup, because that is true for any league around the world that has the domestic cup and a league season, and then you add with the top teams, their European or continental competitions. Those are legitimate concerns. Now, there are reasons why they don't have as big of a concern and reasons that MLS should adopt. And one of those is, in my opinion, just expanding the roster for the tournament to 35 to 40. And that's where you fill in all the academy kids. And so we're not signing these dudes to 5-day contracts. They're just part of the Open Cup roster, and you can play them and you can give them legitimate experience. And I think, as I pointed out in the chat, that to me, Pineda took this game seriously. I mean, I think if you watch the way that this team played, they were very serious about winning. But they were also saw this as the opportunity to play a guy like, especially Brennan, who he's a first team player and hasn't been able to break into that, and legitimately might need to be playing on either wing on Saturday and probably going forward, depending on health and whatnot. I mean, I know Silva played on Tuesday, but who knows? I mean, look, John, I was talking to Jarrett and Maddie before the game. I would have just started Cobb and Efrain Morales and said, hey, go. But obviously you wanted to get Gregerson some playing time. But maybe we're going to see that again on Saturday as well. It's just put Cobb and Morales, because as you pointed out, Cobb's been around. He's proven it. And Morales seems to be playing above his years as well.
Well, and at the same time, Efra has finally grown into, and I mean that in your...
Literally.
Yeah, literally, he has finally grown into that 6'4" frame, where we all know that, when you're in high school, and you have your growth spurt, it's an adjustment as an athlete. And so Efra had to adjust to the growth spurt as a normal person, and then also as an athlete. And so that's why he was dinged, and he was, he wasn't at 100% all the time. I mean, but what I would do, if you're looking at the whole call up thing, like I said, just expand your rosters. I mean, and I think that if you would just expand your rosters to include your second teamers and things like that, then I don't think you have the furor that you do. The danger involving, academy the danger involving the academy players is you don't want them to lose their eligibility.
And I totally get that. But I think there are ways to
MLS, and there's an MLSPA thing that you've got to address in that particular instance. So
totally
open it up to the second team and to those 30 that are on that list of yours. You submit with the league, hey, here's our 30 guys. Just open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's the thing is there are legitimate, I mean, look, MLS has roster rules, but Elfin Cup has roster-ish rules, and they're not similar.
Roster-ish, not roster-ish rules.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's what MLS clubs in the league as a whole need to understand is that this is not an MLS competition necessarily. So, allow your teams to play to the rules of this competition, which do allow you to, register players that maybe aren't technically, MLS Atlanta United players. Because we saw that. And Gordon and Matthews were impactful on Tuesday night. So, it was great. I mean, listen, that right side, despite, if I can be critical for like 2 seconds, Luke Brennan learned how to beat someone on the dribble because
you're critical for more
that's
than
the next
step
step there. But that right side was doing whatever they wanted to Charlotte. That was, you haven't seen Charlotte look that bad since. Oh wait, no, they still look bad. But anyway, it was a wonderful performance and hopefully a confidence builder for a guy like Brennan, who again we're probably going to need on Saturday.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we don't know what the situation is with the wings and with injuries. It'll probably end up being some combination of with Tyler out 4 to 6. Do you start Mosqueda and Saba and slide Saba over at some points and then bring Luke in? So that's.
Well, honestly, John, if I were writing the lineup, I think we saw a little bit of it on Tuesday night where Brooks was our right winger. And you can play like Hernandez maybe behind him, or you play Caleb as the left winger and you put Hernandez on the left side, which do not murder me in the chat. I do not believe that Ronald Hernandez should be an MLS player, at least certainly not for Atlanta United. I think he's a contract that needs to be dumped at the end of the season. But the reality is you got to make do with what you got to make do with, and you're still paying him $300,000 a year, so you might as well use the guy. So put him at one of the right or left back spots and push that normal right or left back up to a wing spot. Because I do think Caleb and Brooks, like at some point, John, you got to think about plugging my podcast. We talked about this on last week's episode of Soccer for Us.
There you go.
Sometimes it's best to just get the best 11 on the field. And I don't think Edwin Mosqueda counts as a best 11 player right now for Atlanta United, even with the players who are out. And so is Hernandez a better player? Maybe, but it doesn't sacrifice as much, in my opinion, to put Brooks or Caleb as a winger because they're just better players. And sometimes it's better to put your better players in better positions. And that's kind of what I'm looking at for Saturday.
Well, yeah, and we need to get into, I don't know if we will get into it today or tomorrow. I'm probably looking more like tomorrow. But the man in the middle for this matchup involving Atlanta United and DC United, the in some circles viewed as the Angel Hernandez of Major League Soccer, Joe Dickerson.
So, we got Joe Dickerson?
Yes.
That is climbing out yet.
Joe Dickerson was named. The lists came out yesterday. So Joe Dickerson will be the man in the middle for the matchup against DC United. I think, and this is a point that you might see with somebody's 30-foot head on Saturday evening. You look at Christian Benteke and Chris McVeigh. Right now, both of them are top 6 in Major League Soccer when it comes to fouls committed so far this season. We know that I want to see how the refereeing crew views Christian Benteke. Are they going to, for all of the fouls that Christian Benteke has given this season, he is tied for top in fouls given. He is also not at the top of the list of the individuals who have 28 fouls that they have committed this season. He is not, however, at the top of the list in yellow cards in association with those numbers of fouls. So how is his match monitored? How is his behavior monitored? I want to see that. But I think that if Chris McVay is your starting left back, I think you can run at him all day. So I think that you look at Atlanta United down the right. I think you look at DC United at the left. I think that you can have advantage there with Chris McVay because McVay's tied for 6th in fouls committed so far this season, and he ain't the most fleet of foot. We saw that when he was with Messi and friends last season. I think you can run at Chris McVay all day long.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point about Benteke, though, in that he is a very physical player. We know this about him because literally he's physically gifted.
He is not small. He is not a small man.
He's a large human.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because as a referee, you can't penalize a guy just for being tall. You can't penalize a guy just for being big. I deal with this a lot more because, like, for example, last weekend I was doing an academy tournament. And so you've got 11 and 12-year-old girls who are twice the size as another girl on the field because they just happen to hit their growth spurt before the other people. But with Benteke, you can't penalize him just for being big, but he does. It is curious to see how he is monitored and restricted in using his body in certain movements. Mm-hmm. And, again, this is why if Gregerson can't go, Morales might be a better option because at 6'4", he's able to just physically match up with Benteke, where a guy like Luis Abram, who's unable to match up with just about any player in the league, is probably a better option than I think Morales. And same with like Noah Cobb, who's not small. He looks small next to Ephra, which is weird. Watching him out on the field, and you're like, "Oh no, it's not." Noah's tall.
No, he's not. Yeah, he is. He is not a small man. Yeah, he is not. He is not a small man.
A large dude.
Yes, yeah. he is a large young man. He's not.
But if you have someone who can go physically match up against him, you're more likely to. Yes, you may get into some problem. I mean, Ephra's a lot younger, so you do have that to kind of concern yourself with. Maybe he's not able to play the type of game that Benteke wants to play. But I think you're able to just match up better a little bit. And hopefully those fouls go your way because Benteke will draw fouls, but also commit fouls.
Yes. And so that to me is the key, is that the fouls that he commits will Joe Dickerson and the crew.
He said he has 28 fouls.
Yeah, he's tied at the top of the list for fouls committed.
Over 10, 11 games?
Yeah. So it's like,
okay.
high.
So we're not quite at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot, especially for a forward.
Yeah. And so that to me is.
I'm interested to see because Dickerson doesn't give out yellow cards a whole lot. He'll give them out, but he's not. He uses them when he needs to, not when it. Mm-hmm. That's why I can say it. He doesn't really love to give out yellow cards, which is fine. I think at the end of the day, you don't want a whole lot of yellow cards given for frivolous things, but hopefully he's taking a look at this as well, because that is something that a referee should be looking at, is how likely is this team to foul another team, because that is indicative of how you should be prepared and not just like mentally doing your prep before a game and go, okay, well, this team likes to foul, this team does this, but taking a look at those players who get called for a lot of fouls, and you don't like to necessarily have a bias in your head that this player is going to foul, but you have to be understanding that they're more likely to foul, and that gives you insight into who do you need to focus on more.
A preconceived notion.
Yeah, you don't want to have those, but at the same time, it's nice to know that, hey, this team is more likely to foul. I mean, we talk about this a lot with previous editions of the Red Bulls, maybe not this edition, but previous editions of the Red Bulls and current editions of the Philadelphia Union, where they are teams that are okay with fouling you. They will concede fouls. They're okay with that. And as a referee, you have to understand that, hey, this team, when a team fouls a lot, you as a referee have to go, okay, well, they're the ones doing it. Yeah. And this is the conversation you have to have. And I try to have with younger referees is the other team is, the defending team or the attacking, whatever phase of play you're in, they're the ones doing the fouling. You just have to call them on it. And, it's hard for that referee to have that mentality because you don't want to insert yourself in the game that much. I know that shocks people. We don't want to have to insert ourselves in the game that much.
Unless you're Joe Dickerson. Did I say that out loud? Have you in any of your matches, or if anyone in your circle after a match is completed, have any of you given a mea culpa to a coach because of an in-match call? Have you ever given a mea culpa after the fact and said, yeah, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, like, oh, yeah, probably thinking about that, I probably should have given, like, yeah, I should have given a yellow card or that. But, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I can't think back all to when I was, a young kid refereeing at 17, 18. 15.
Back in my day.
But, yeah, I mean, I've talked to coaches and be like, yeah, I probably should have done that. Or like, hey, sorry, I called it that way. This is why. But, like, I don't necessarily do a mea culpa. I explain why I saw what I saw, because they definitely have a different viewpoint on things. And, they think everything is a foul for their team, which is their prerogative. They're, protecting their players in some way, shape, or form. My job is to be neutral and to call a fair game. So, I just try to explain what I saw, and I try not to get into too much of the discussion after a game, honestly, John, because tempers there are not cool, and it doesn't lead to anything productive most of the time. But no, I've had conversations where, like, yeah, hey, maybe shouldn't have called that, or yeah, I see what you're saying, or stuff like that. They, let them know that we're prone to error and humans as well. But there are times when it's okay to say, yeah, I probably should have I messed up there. And one of those really is yellow cards, red cards, because we do not unfortunately have the benefit of VAR. So sometimes you give a yellow card and it's like, yeah, probably thinking back that should have been a red card, or looking back at a harsh value, like, yeah, probably should have been a yellow card there. So.
And the reason I ask is because apparently, according to Matthijs de Ligt in his post-match interview, he was told by one of the linesmen that he made a mistake, and that is not something that that you hear a lot, especially in a match of this import, this deep. Into a match. So Manuel Neuer, I mean, you've got Thomas Tuchel, he's got a lead. Manuel Neuer in trying to handle a shot doesn't. And then that's the beginning of it all. Bayern denied what looked like a clear equalizer deep into stoppage time. Matthijs de Ligt scores on a half volley. The linesman already flagging for offside. Referee Simon Marciniak with the linesman already flagging for offside. Ref Simon Marciniak had also already blown for offside, despite replays appearing to show Bayern's attackers may have been onside. Here was the discussion as it was getting out the tape. You're getting out your Zapruder film and you're getting out all of your three-dimensional tape. Here was the 25 seconds of discussion that aired on BN Sports, courtesy of BN and the Champions.
You're wrong, Andy. This is what we've got.
Rudiger,
no. Now, he's onside. He's on.
Look at Rudiger.
No, De Ligt.
He's
De
on.
Ligt is off.
De Ligt is off. He's on.
He's on. Look at the arm of.
He's on.
Who is on?
The guy that heads the ball. Who is it? I can't see his number. Who is it?
No, he doesn't. He goes to head it. He doesn't head it. Mendy, I think, heads it.
It's Mendy who headed the ball.
You're wrong, Andy.
So there you go. That's the you have a discussion with Keys and Arsene Wenger, and they're breaking out all the tape and all this kind of stuff. And so that was the beginning of 25 seconds of chaos. So Tuchel, after the match, says, it's a disastrous decision from the linesman and from the referee. It feels almost like a betrayal in the end because of that decision. So De Ligt puts the ball in the net. So after it's shot, once again, Simon Marciniak had already blown for offsides against Nusayr Mazraoui. Replay show Bayern defender onside with the AR, who's instructed to keep his flag down for tight calls so VAR can review the call, making a clear error. And this is from Sky. Whether Real's players would have stopped De Ligt scoring had the whistle not gone is open to debate, but it was a bad mistake from the officials at a critical time. The linesman said sorry. That does not help at this level. To raise the flag in a decision like this and a close decision in the last minute, the referee as well, he does not have to whistle. He sees that we win the ball, and this is Thomas Tuchel. He sees that we win the second ball, get the shot away to whistle. It's a very, very bad decision. It's against the rules, and it's a bad decision. It's a disaster, tough to swallow, but it's away. So Thomas Tuchel, less than pleased.
Well, I don't really care about what Thomas Tuchel has to say. He's not a nice person, and I don't have to care about him. But I will address the legitimate issue, which is the referee should not have put their flag up. I'm not saying the player was not offside or he was onside or whatever, because I do think he's
that's
still
why you're
offside.
Here. We are here to discuss.
I still think he may have been offside.
Yeah.
But I think it is legitimate and a problem that the referee put his flag up for such a tight offside call in live action.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that with the VAR era we have been seeing, and the referees have been told, is keep that flag down until the play has finally passed. And so the fact that the assistant referee puts his flag up, the center referee blows his whistle before De Ligt even touches the ball, if I remember the sound in my head correctly.
Yeah.
That is a problem, right? That is the issue. So that as a referee, I would apologize for that. I still think he was offside, based on the naked eye that I can see for the angle that we got. Because again, the arm is not necessarily a playable part of the body. So you're looking at playable part of the body, which includes your feet, which are both of their feet, heads and shoulders, which are playable parts of the body, looked to be offside, in my opinion. But the referee should not have put their flag up for this, because at least not until the ball enters the back of the net, so that we can have a full video review. And part of this just goes back to the conspiracy that Real Madrid has somehow made a deal with the devil, or God, I don't know, depending on how. There's been both theories floated on Twitter. Real got very lucky, let's just put it that way, to have this call go in their favor, because it should not have been called until after that ball entered the back of the net.
Mm-hmm. So here's the so asked after the match. De Ligt is asked for it. He's asked what his take is. It wasn't valid. Yeah, I said it already. It was the third interview. He says if it suffices to say it's offside, but I think we made rules in football, and the rule says that if it's not clear, it's an offside. What it wasn't, because I don't see it yet if it's offside or not. You have to keep playing. And if you go in the last minute, you whistle like this, I think that it is a big, big, big mistake. And the big disgrace, if it's offside or not, I don't know if you can check it, but if you don't check it, how can you see it? This is the second goal of Joselu and Rudiger. It's almost offside. If you whistle, okay, there's nothing happens, nothing. But now it's the difference, and it's a shame. Did the referee say anything to you in this moment? Second question. De Ligt. The linesman said to me, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And so he takes a big breath. Yes, in the end, I'm not the type of person to want to blame, lose, or win on the referee. So Real Madrid deserved to win because they went to him. But I think that, as he's thinking, if it's a rule, it's a rule. And that's the only thing I can say about it. So that's Matthijs de Ligt after the match when he was asked.
Yeah. I think, again, Bayern are looking for reasons to be aggrieved because their season has been terrible. But that's what you get for signing Harry Kane. So I don't really have that much sympathy. But look, they got lucky that they weren't given that Arsenal weren't given a penalty in this first leg of their tie, and that would have affected things. And then they just ran out of luck in this game, because it's unlucky that the play was called dead. But in my opinion, the player was offside. So, hey, complain all you want. You're going home and do your job. So be a nicer person, and people won't have this to say about you.
And Turner separately. Have we talked about how U.S. Soccer Federation refs have more control over matches than pro matches?
Well, I got news for you, Turner. They're the same. They're not different. They're just employed at this point by U.S. Soccer for these matches, as opposed to MLS for MLS matches, or USL for USL matches, or NWSL for NWSL matches. But they're the same pool of referees. Especially a lot of the pro referees are being deployed. A lot of the Pro 2 referees more likely are being deployed for these games. And they're the same general pool of referees. I'll also say that you're looking at it from a slightly different point of view, probably as watching a lot of these games as a neutral, as opposed to a fan invested in how this referee is officiating the match. And as you said, controlling or managing the match. But let's be real honest. The referee in the Atlanta United game got a call wrong. They got a call wrong. Should have been a penalty to Charlotte. The foul happened inside the box.
But that adds to another issue about the tournament and where VAR is implemented or should be implemented, because I think
I think, John, the problem is, Kennesaw is probably one that is actually able to do it, but a lot of these,
and that's the thing, is that if you can't do
the
it,
place Seattle was playing last night, you can't put. They probably don't have the ability to put VAR cameras up there.
Well, and that's the thing, is that if you can't do it in all, you can't do it in any.
Yeah,
and
Isotopes Park, maybe not the best place for VAR.
Well, I mean, yeah,
no offense to them.
I mean, it's the home for your Albuquerque Isotopes, and so I mean that's they're
probably not Isotopes Park anymore. I don't know, but
it is a corporatized sponsor.
Isotopes Park, then I like it. Okay, good.
Rio Grande Credit Union Field at Isotopes Park.
Yeah, good. Okay,
so good for the credit union for getting.
No, Turner, I think you're just looking at it from a neutral perspective. And when you watch a game, when you watch an Atlanta United game, you're probably looking at it from I don't want to say bias necessarily, but definitely an invested perspective. And so you think that the referee is doing something, you're more critical of referees. That's just what it is, as opposed to a neutral game. Because, I was fairly impartial in the Barcelona-Chelsea match in the Women's Champions League semifinal, and I can tell you that referee was bad. She was not very good. She got a lot of calls wrong. Just wrong. Not even talking about the big calls, which she may have got right. She got a lot of calls wrong. But, you don't see that as out of control. Maybe.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think that you look at consistency and try to, if something is whiplashy one way or the other, you can sit there and go, out of control, in control, what have you.
Yeah. But again, the reality is they're the same pool of referees. It's not like USSF has look, we have a referee shortage in this country at top to bottom. There's no way USSF has like a different pool of referees from pro. They're the same referees. You just don't see them on a regular basis. You probably see a lot of these guys and girls in the center if you watch USL and MLS Next, because that's where they're getting these referees from.
But hey, according to PSRA, these are the folks that we needed to have, because they're the best. They're the best here for the United States. Just ask them.
I promise you, Ismail El-Fath is better than any of the referees we saw this past round. That said, this the U.S. Open Cup is a great way. We talked about getting youngsters on the team to get experience with this. This is a great way for those types of referees to get experience refereeing MLS teams or USL Championship teams. Again, a lot of these guys are League One referees.
Yep.
And this is a great way for them to build up cash, build up respect, and get evaluated to move up. So to your point, Turner, the hope is competitions like these, maybe the Jägermeister Cup as well, are ways to get referees better and more experience so that they can then move up quicker.
I still think that they've created a closed system. I really do. So let's see.
I think we just need more Jägermeister Cups, but that's just me.
Charlotte, Nashville has Armando Villarreal in the middle. Tori Penso is your fourth. CF Montreal and Messi and Friends has Drew Fisher in the middle. Yunus Marakchi is your VAR. Red Bulls and Revs, John Freeman's in the middle. Desmir Pekmic is your fourth. JC Rivero is your VAR. Philadelphia and Orlando, Timothy Ford. That's Timothy Ford for Philadelphia and the purple team. That one's going to be a fun one. Marcus de Oliveira is your fourth. Michael Radchuk is your VAR. Toronto and NYC, Lucas Zapala's in the middle. Philip Dujic is your fourth. Chris Penso is your VAR. Hell is Real has Guido Gonzalez Jr. Kevin Stott is your VAR. Copa Tejas, FC Dallas, and Austin. Jair Marufo is in the middle. Rosendo Mendoza is your VAR. Sporting in Houston, Alexis De Silva is the man in the middle. Fotis Bazakis is your VAR. St. Louis City in all caps and Chicago Fire, Pierre-Luc Lozier is the man in the middle. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. Colorado, San Jose, Natalie Simon is in the middle. Ismail El-Fath is your fourth. Frankly, if you're going to have somebody as a fourth, it needs to be Ismail El-Fath needs to be the fourth for Philadelphia and the purple team and not Marcus de Oliveira if you're going to have Ismail El Fadli.
Also, I do like to say, John, that we now canonically can just refer to them as the purple team from here on out.
Sweet. Excellent. Galaxy and RSL, Rubio Vasquez is the man in the middle. Jorge Gonzalez is your VAR. LAFC in Vancouver, Ted Uncle is the man in the middle. Kevin Stott, your VAR for the late game. Portland and Seattle on Sunday. Alan Chapman is the man in the middle. Jeff Gamble is your VAR. So Timothy Ford was given Philadelphia and Orlando City. So the purple team and the Union, all I can do is this to both of those fan bases. I just do this 3 times, and that's all we know. What else is on your mind here on a Thursday where you are staying hopefully dry and having electricity in your studio?
Yeah, luckily I'm at home today, so I didn't have to venture outside and deal with the rain. Anyway, looking forward to hopefully a bounce back win for Atlanta United. I'm going to be a little bit of a wet blanket for a second, so I'm sorry. The win on Tuesday is great. I'm very happy that the team won. I think that is important overall. But beating a USL League One team, a good one, but still a League One team,
you did what was expected,
right? And even the scoreline is like, well, congratulations, this is what you should have done. The positives are the 2 young guys who got called up the day before. I feel like performed very well.
Well, when Gonzalo was asked about it after the match, basically Ashton was called up because of the injury to Tyler Wolff.
Yes.
And so Ashton was like, "Hey, look at this!"
Literally the day, whatever we found out, Tyler was injured on Monday, and Ashton's called up that same day. I think Edwards is probably going to be part of this, regardless. It sounds like, but yeah, the youngsters played well. That is a plus. Josh Cohen played well. That is a plus. I also think again that Cobb and Morales looked really good together. And to me, that is a positive, because if you're Atlanta United and you want to spend big on big-time attackers and midfield talent, to be able to develop, which, by the way, CBU at this point in time, I mean, I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying, brother.
I think that we're just print the T-shirts that gummit.
We ought to have it at the T-shirt. We ought to have it at the store. We got to get
I'll put the design together for you, John.
CBU, baby.
But seriously, if you're Atlanta United and your goal is to find big name attackers, big name midfielders, or whatever you want to call big name, but you know what I mean. You're spending your money on that.
Yeah, you spend your money up front. You get your folks. You build. You build from within, from the back, and go forward.
Absolutely, and that includes a guy like Caleb Wiley, who is a homegrown, and hopefully Gordon and Edwards can. Again, Gordon can be similar to Tyler Wolff, where hey, you're a homegrown, you're good enough to be a backup until you prove that you can win a starting spot. Edwards maybe is the same thing, where maybe he can be the next Ronald Hernandez, of the dude who's just there to fill in on whatever wing back is hurt.
Yeah. You got Aiden Torres coming up. You've got Caden Moore developing.
So that is the hope, right? And so that is the positive from that game, is the youngsters look good.
Yep.
I'm still going to reserve too much praise for Pineda, because I'm sorry, you did the thing you were supposed to do. And to be quite frank, you didn't use a lot of your, this wasn't our first team out there. So did he solve problems with the first team players not being able to score? No, we don't know that. That said, I don't think that Pineda took this game any less serious than he would an MLS game, despite not wearing a suit on the sideline, which, maybe that was because it was hot. I'll give him a pass.
You were there.
It was hot.
Yeah.
I would not have wanted to be in a suit for that game.
No.
But he prepared this team the same he would for the first team, match. He prepared the players, it seemed like, really well. And that, to me, is when you talk about taking it seriously, that's what matters. Because you cannot run your first team. Like, you can't run Almada and Gigi and Saba out there for 60 to 90 minutes on a Tuesday after they played on a Saturday and then have them go play another. That's crazy talk, right? Especially for a dude in Almada who needs like a 2-week vacation, homeboy. He needs a break. That is the positive. If I could be critical of maybe Luke Brennan, it's learn how to beat a guy on the dribble, because you were really good at eliminating the whole back line with your pace. But then once the ball was controlled, and you need to learn to eliminate a guy on the dribble.
He's a youngin'. Let him grow into it.
And that's the growth prospect, right? And the same can be said for, it's Howard Wolf at times. Even Edwin Mosquera, he eliminates himself on the dribble a lot of times, which is a problem. Yeah. But those are what makes a guy like Saba and Xande Silva elite players, and they're, academy call-up still. Well, not academy, but, reserve play.
Yeah, youngins.
So, yeah. But it was positive to see that. It's good to win. Winning is good. And hopefully that carries over to Saturday, where you're playing a team that you should beat. But we've seen Atlanta struggle against teams they should beat before. Wow. And you look at the record of the season, that you've only beaten the 3 worst teams in the conference. So, this is an opportunity to maybe get a win over a slightly better team than that.
But this is going to be a tough one defensively because of what Troy Lacine has been able to do.
Yeah. I mean, look, all games are tough, John. Yeah. Eventually you can't, and all games have their own different factors. And, Gregerson apparently wasn't training with the first team today, according to Doug Robertson. So, whether that's precautionary or an actual issue.
Yeah. I think we'll know.
I don't know.
I think we'll know more tomorrow. And maybe Saturday morning. I think
Jason specifically mentioned that on the post-game show, is that I think Pineda is going to talk to the media today. Today's Thursday. Yes. But we won't know much, even if it weren't a real concussion injury. We're just not going to know much.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Tomorrow, hopefully we know more, but then once we get the actual injury report, availability report. Sorry.
Yes.
We'll know more.
Are you available? Yes, I'm available. Yeah.
But again, I think honestly, John, I'm saying just start Cobb and Ephra. Noah and Ephra, put them back there.
Yeah, might be,
But I also don't think Luis Abram is a good player. So this is my issue. I would put Noah and Ephra back there.
I will stipulate that you and I will respectfully disagree about Luis Abram.
Yeah, look, you can stick by Luis Abram, and I think I feel justified in the fact that Brad Guzan even tried to take him out of the game the other day. So
do not mess with an Illinois Red.
Do not mess with Brad Guzan. The dude is 39. He does not care.
And he's also a 9 technique defensive lineman. If you go walk up to him. He's
also 6'4".
He's out at the zero. He's a rush end at 39.
Yeah, Brad would have been a very good JJ Watt-esque defensive lineman. I gotta say,
6'4", 230 spins, man. You don't mess with that. You don't come inside the 6 and mess with that. What else?
My question for you, John, on all this is.
Sure.
As we look at VAR, we had a game this week that didn't have it. Did you feel like it was better? Or do you feel like, at the end of the day, you'd like to get calls as right as possible, as many times as possible?
That I understand. And to the point that we made previously, if you can't have it at one, you can't have it at all. I get it. But I think we're to the point now where you should, if you can have it universally, because I experienced it in the other American football, especially late in seasons and with championship games. If you have the technology and it can be universally applied, then I would say, yeah, go for it. But I understand not having universal application of technology until you get to a certain point. So
would you be okay with, especially in like Open Cup, saying, look, yeah, rounds 1 through 4, we're not having it because we don't know if we can, as you said, universally apply it. But would you be okay with saying that, like at the round of 16 or quarterfinals, this is definitely a part of it?
Well, but all right, so
because I think they do that in the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken. There is a point in time where it becomes VAR is has to be used.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure what point that is.
So, but here's your venues: Patriots Point, Al Lang, Children's Mercy. My guess is you're probably going to be at Starfire again for Seattle, so that would eliminate it on premise. Sacramento, you'd be at Hard Health. I don't know. BMO, you would have it for LAFC. I don't know if you'd be able to have it for Indy 11, and you sure as hell wouldn't have it at Belson Stadium in Queens. So I think that looking at the venues that the teams would have, you couldn't have it because if we go through the venues and we think we know what those venues are going to be, the universality wouldn't apply again. It might have to be semifinals and finals. We might have to wait that late.
I think at least you put a stipulation that quarterfinals need to be, unless one of the stadiums can't, and at that point you don't have it anywhere.
Yeah.
But the likelihood that a quarterfinal match is played at a stadium that can't handle that is probably low. Even if you're talking MLS teams, they should be able to find a way to put that in.
Yeah,
fifth, third can take it. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
although apparently, according to Maddie, that stadium is not fit for FBS football. That is a whole nother conversation.
Well, it's because
I was there looking. How you gonna double the size of the stadium?
That's the thing. You might end up there. There's a mall that isn't getting a whole lot of traffic down the street. Maybe you build it there.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I think you just reroute some roads, and that's what you're gonna have to do. But
yeah, because you can't. Yeah. It's like looking at Q2. There's no way really to expand except in that one the north end zone.
Well, you could expand Q2 if you take out an entire building that's attached to the stadium. But they're not going to do that. No, Michael Head, it is not fit for FBS. They do not have the space, and I don't know where it is. Pretty landlocked. It's a great stadium for what it is.
Yeah, it's 8,500, and you need to have, I think, was it 12,500 or 13? To
you gotta get close to 15, I would imagine.
So you got to find a spot. And Michael, to your point, how is it rivalry week when you're not playing the purple team, Nashville or Charlotte, as the league now mandated DC and Atlanta as a derby? I think this is a 3-week thing. I think that it's the opportunity for everyone to have home matches and such. In as much as rivalry week is more like rivalry weeks, but it is referred to as a singular. So if it doesn't,
I would argue that BC is not a rival.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way, right? I mean, I think from they're talking regionally. They're not talking Atlanta, Philly, or Atlanta, New York. They're talking regional rivals. And DC. I mean, shit. We have
There's the
we have a belt.
rating.
We have a belt that includes DC for some reason. So I mean, apparently they're a rival. I don't know who started that, but the Southern belt thing includes DC. So there's something that you're also looking forward to, John, this weekend, is getting some points banked in that, because we had an opportunity to win it last year and ended up choking it away at DC on my birthday. That was not fun, but hopefully this year you start putting those points in the bank, because you got sorry, it was a personal attack on me personally.
Yes,
to not win it on my birthday.
According to Texas football, in October of 23, changed the membership requirements for all FBS schools. Very good, Michael Head. Thank you. The council eliminated attendance requirements at FBS schools. The change is effective immediately and relieves schools from needing to average at least 15,000 in actual or paid attendance at home football games over a rolling 2-year period.
Attendance averages are people in the stands. I think some conferences have capacity. We're talking capacity, not actual attendance. So.
Yeah. Next change to receive most of the headlines, increasing the application fee to transition from FCS to FBS from 5,000 to 5 million effective immediately. So there you go. So
I mean, look,
you're late
in the weeds on this, but the straight up answer is you take away the stage end and you actually make that into a real. You mimic what you have on the other side, and that adds about 3,000, and you're above 10,000 and you're fine.
And then
you add an upper deck to the east side, and more people bake in the sun.
Yeah, so I think you would be south end zone, north end zone. Well, north end zone, you take out the stage, you add seats there, you turn that permanent, you add a second level to the south end zone, and you add another 1,500 to 2,000 there, and then I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Now that we've completely and totally just blown up 55 minutes of the show. Talking stuff because it's important. So enjoy your Good Morning Baltimore hairspray mug. And obviously, you know that since you have a golden ticket, when the real world doesn't intervene and the path is clear, you can come on by.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for listening to me talk for almost an hour. I'm sure you'll get actual intellectual conversation with your next guest, so that's good.
Yeah, Niko's coming up in about 5 to 7 minutes. Be well, my friend.
I do want to hear Niko's perspective, because he is one of those teams we were talking about of the VAR element to U.S. Open Cup, because I think, as you mentioned, Starfire is one of those where if Seattle wants to put it there, they could make it happen.
Yeah.
But what does that look like? So I would, if I could ask a question to Niko, it would be that.
Yeah, so then we'll ask him that when he comes up in just a little bit. Be safe, my friend.
Bye, y'all.
There he goes. He's going to go drink his what's in his mug now. Yeah, I mean, frankly, that 20,000 temporary stadium at Northwestern actually looks pretty sweet. That looks really cool. The lakefront deal, I think that really should be what they do, because if they're having problems filling up Ryan as it was and then going to they're going to Wrigley and Soldier Field and all that kind of stuff, do one that you can fit. Make it look lived in. Make it look like a hot crowd. And Michael, like I said, to your point, I think it depends on the opponent and traveling fans. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's next in Conference USA for Kennesaw State. I mean, they thought it was important to jump to FBS. And so now that you're going to be in Conference USA, which really should be the Big 12 and Conference USA, literally, I think the Big 12 and Conference USA should just switch names, because the Big 12 has more of a USA footprint than Conference USA does. And Conference USA, because of all the defections, will have only 12 teams, or Big 10 or Big 12 or whatever. I think they're going to have 12 teams at some point. So I think that Conference USA and the Big 12 should just switch names, because it's more fitting of the footprints. That's okay, Michael. Yeah, Big 10, but I mean, Vandy, SEC, same thing. I mean, but Vandy in the SEC, as one of the outliers when it comes to attendance and wins and losses, I mean, you'll have a lot of visitors pack the joint. And I think it'll be a test case for Northwestern of how big they should build that new stadium. Will it fit 20? Great. Should you make it 40? Make it intimate? That'd be cool. I feel like Carlito all of a sudden. I know a lot of folks were talking about the jinx of Harry Kane. Thomas Tuchel pulls him out for a late substitute. And so, of course, Harry Kane is pulled in the 85th minute for Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. That didn't go well. Also on the board this morning, according to Martin Ziegler at the Times, and when Martin Ziegler has a byline, it's a fairly big deal. Players Union and leagues warn FIFA to reschedule the new 32-team Club World Cup next year or face legal action. Manchester City and Chelsea are due to be in the tournament in the United States. According to Ziegler, FIFPro and the World Leagues organization fear the new calendar, including expanded 32-team summer tournament, poses significant injury risk. FIFA is facing the unprecedented backlash against the new 32-team Club World Cup. New competition scheduled to take place in the U.S. in June next year, involving Manchester City, Chelsea, among 12 European sides. The two organizations have called for the new Club World Cup to be rescheduled and have sent a joint letter to FIFA saying that they've taken legal advice. They say FIFA's new match calendar is, quote, beyond saturation, causing economic harm for domestic leagues and posing a significant injury risk to players. They also accuse FIFA of making decisions to benefit its own commercial interest. Beat 2, 3, 4. Really? Question mark? Closed quote? The letter, which has been seen by Ziegler, it says it's been seen by the Times, but that means Martin Ziegler got to see it, calls on the FIFA Council at the meeting in Bangkok next week to reschedule the competition and reopen discussions on the international match calendar. FIFA has been approached for comment. Apparently, FIFA has not yet responded. At the new Club World Cup, teams will play 3 group matches and up to 4 knockout games scheduled to run from June 15 to July 13, starting only 2 weeks after the Champions League final. However, the old Club World Cup will still continue and be played in December, but rebranded as the Intercontinental Cup. FIFPro and the World Leagues want that tournament to be scrapped. Included 7 teams won by City last year. The letter from the World League's General Secretary Jerome Perlmutter and his FIFPro counterpart Stefan Burchhalter sent to Gianni Infantino last week. Quote, should FIFA refuse to formally commit to resolving the issues at its upcoming council, we shall be compelled to advise our members on the options available to them, both individually and collectively, to proactively safeguard their interests. These options include legal action against FIFA, on which we have now commissioned external expert advice. FIFA has continually and consistently made unilateral decisions that benefit its own competitions and commercial interests while negatively affecting national leagues and players. Over a significant period, FIFA has ignored repeated attempts by leagues and unions to engage on the issue. As a result of FIFA's recent strategy of expanding its own competitions, the calendar is now beyond saturation. And gets into all the other points that we were talking about. FIFA extends its own competitions. It is incumbent upon FIFA to adjust accordingly. Imposing the burden of adaptation on national leagues and players is inherently abusive, end quote. FIFA is yet to secure a broadcast partner for the expanded Club World Cup, but its new major worldwide partner, Aramco, Saudi Arabia's vastly wealthy state-owned oil company, expected to have a significant sponsorship involvement in the competition. So that's the news from Martin Ziegler this morning. Also, Luis Rubiales is going to stand trial for alleged sexual assault and coercion. Jorge Vilda and others will also stand trial over alleged coercion following the incident at the 2023 World Cup. Following Spain's win, Arsenal have confirmed that Jorginho has signed a new contract. Also on the board from Steve Coburn from Amnesty International, linking to an Amnesty International story. For 5 months, FIFA has been holding on to, and this is Coburn's words, FIFA has been holding on to an independent review of whether they should pay compensation to workers who suffered to deliver the World Cup in Qatar. It's thought the review says they should pay. So Coburn says it's time for FIFA to publish and act. The review followed a huge campaign from human rights organizations, trade unions, fan groups, and players backed by FAs and 4 of FIFA's corporate sponsors. Amnesty and Avaz delivered a 1 million person petition before last year's Congress. The review, instigated by a motion to last year's FIFA Congress submitted by the president of Norway's FA, Lisa Klaveness, a force for good in global football, according to Coburn. She's been calling for the review to be published since January, and yet still nothing. From The Guardian, the article from The Guardian from Paul McInnes. Once again, this was back in January. Football exec sought to hold FIFA to its commitments on human rights, called on the governing body to publish the report as far back as January. We are in May. It has not happened yet. So we're still waiting on that. David Moyes apparently might have a new gig. He's going to be, looks like he's going to be a part of the broadcast team for TalkSport. So TalkSport felt compelled to announce that TalkSport had talked to David Moyes and that David Moyes will be a part of things on TalkSport. Yeah, Hutch, this is going to be big today. Sidebar having to do with nothing. Storm's coming in from the west, and it's looking pretty nasty. Most mornings, because of all of the outdoor activity that we end up having to do, I'm looking off to my left, and what I traditionally have on is the Weather Channel. And so I'm keeping an eye on these kinds of things. Noon Eastern. It is Soccer's in Session Live. It is Match Day Thursday. We're going to catch up with Brian Messer from Macintosh, and we're going to find out about Macintosh. It is going to be GAC in Cambridge, Jess and Jason tonight, Macintosh in Decatur. And then Justin and Jarrett are going to have Roswell and Marist, Sprayberry and River Ridge. That's going to be today on the NFHS Network, weather permitting. Reminder there. Yesterday, we had 6 matchups, and we got to have champions determined across the board. Big win for Toombs over Model. Hopefully we can catch up with Matty Cruz before graduation. If not, we'll see if we can catch up with Luke Winstel. Brian Messer will lead things off at noon. We'll see who else can crash the party. I think that we're going to have at the very least, like I said, at the very least, we'll have Brian Messer. We'll go through all the activity and get you ready for tomorrow with Buford, West Forsyth, Campbell, and Kennesaw Mountain in 7A. But we'll go over all of the activity in the GHSA championships and finals. And it's been fun doing in session this season, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And then being able to tour the state and go rapid fire and catch up with everybody who's made their advances and everything, and find out what it's been like to go up against all of these teams and to take the tour of the state and see what's been going on. It's been a fun ride to see what's going on the high school game. We had 34 match days, and that included our playoff run. So it was great to be able to kind of share the state with everybody. And so at noon, it's going to be Soccer's in Session, our penultimate edition of Soccer's in Session. We'll catch up with Brian Messer from Macintosh, and that'll be live here on the network at noon, from noon until no later than 1 o'clock. So we'll have the noon hour will be drifting into the discussions about what's going on with the high school game. We'll go over all of the finals that have happened to date, get you ready for the 4 matches today. Like I said, it's going to be Jess and Jason, GAC and Cambridge on the girls' side, McIntosh and Decatur on the boys' side. Really looking forward to that one. Decatur has come through as a 4 seed, taking on nationally top 5 ranked McIntosh. Pedigrees and Blue Bloods with McIntosh, and they're going to be taking on a 4 seed in Decatur. Roswell, Marist, Sprayberry, River Ridge on the boys' side. Number 1 or number 2 in the state, depending on the poll. Number 1 or number 2 is nationally as well, depending on the poll. So we'll see. But yeah, Rich makes the point to remind us that rivalry week is multiple weeks. Next week, it's Atlanta United and Nashville, Hudson River, and Union and New England. It is 7:36 on the West Coast. And my first question for our traditional guest in this time slot is, how much sleep did you get after what happened late last night in the beauty of the Open Cup? But since he's here, we got to roll an open and be real fancy about it, because that means this guy's now. So how much sleep did you get, sir? Oh, he's got the Rave Green out. That's what he's getting at. There it is. Rave Green. Is it cup 1 or 2?
This is 2, and this is my first 10 ounce. The first one was a 20 ounce.
Wow!
And that's because, to your question, I got 3 hours of sleep. Not just because I was up late, but I had to be up early because the wife wanted me to go to the gym, and that's been her regimen here lately. Get me out of bed, will not let me stay in bed, although I roll and I stick my head under the pillows like a ostrich. So not a lot of sleep, but I did get to watch a few of the Open Cup games, and I wasn't at Starfire yesterday, I have to admit. It was my dad's birthday, so had to be there for Dad. So I had to, again, do the son thing, go to the birthday party, then come back, watch the whole 90 plus overtime plus PKs. And it was good. It was fun, at least to get enough information, enough insight for your show today. I said, that's worth it. I need to be ready for tomorrow. So here I am, 3 hours sleep, second cup of coffee.
Woo. Oh, brother, you're braver than I am. All right, so question to the floor, and it came from our buddy Bart Keeler over at the Soccer for US POD. And it has to do with VAR and Open Cup. First question. If a game is not at Lumen involving the Seattle Sounders and it's at Starfire, is it possible for technology to be in place at Starfire to have VAR available?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if there's one room. It'd be interesting where they would put the VAR room.
Or I mean,
there's
even enough cameras to where you could send it to a centralized location, like on an MLS match day, where you had enough cameras available to you, and send it to Niko's studio, where you'd have dudes in a room looking at VAR. Would there be enough camera locations or anything like that?
I mean, I would say that it'd be tough for me to give you a definitive answer, but I highly doubt it. I mean, I've done radio broadcasting from Starfire. I have done just regular shows from Starfire, from that specific location. Half of the time when I used to do, actually most of the time when I used to do the Spanish broadcast for U.S. Open Cup games and on, I'd have to be outside behind the crowd to get things going. It was tough to get internet. It was tough to get a whole bunch of things ready for a good broadcast. I know KJR was there yesterday, and they had some technical issues, and they were there a long time trying to get a good broadcast out. So if a simple broadcast is hard to establish at that location, I think it'd be very difficult for me to believe that there's enough bandwidth and technology and I mean, cameras can definitely be there. There's places to put them at, but how do you communicate? How do you connect it all? Where the referees would be at? I mean, I think it'd be very difficult, to be quite frank.
Okay, yeah, because we were trying to figure out universally. Okay, if you don't have VAR in this particular round, as everybody is advancing, when could VAR be used outside of the championship final in Open Cup and have it be a benefit to the tournament instead of just not having VAR and you're waiting or you're not having VAR available to you, period. So that was just the biggest question, is like, when in a perfect world could you have VAR as a part of Open Cup? I said, really, honestly, it would probably end up having to be the final. And that might be it, because if you can't have it in one location, you shouldn't have it in all the locations.
Exactly. And you're spot on. And I mean, I haven't been to all the other, USL stadiums, but just like I said, talking particularly to Starfire, there's a lot of limitations that everybody knows. And that's kind of the beauty of it, and the magic of it is how awkward and odd and, I don't want to call it amateur, but it just feels different than just your regular games. And part of that is the size of the press box and how difficult it is to get just one, not just one, but two broadcasts going out of there. I mean, yesterday you had the USL broadcast, you had KJR. So, yeah, it's definitely difficult to get those sort of things happen at Starfire. So I would think that is the same for a lot of these USL teams.
Yeah, and I mean, we were looking at the possible home venues in the next round, and it's Charleston Battery, so that's Patriots Point, that's USL Championship. Al Lang, Tampa Bay, USL Championship. Children's Mercy, Sporting Kansas City. Seattle playing Phoenix. I imagine that's going to be back at Starfire in 2 weeks. They're not going to move it to Lumen yet. Sacramento, it's going to be at Hard Health, USL Championship. LAFC, it would be at BMO. You could do it there. Indy 11, it's at the Mike, or whatever family has spent $9 gazillion to put their name on the field. That USL Championship. And then if it's at NYCFC2, that's at St. John's University, and it's MLS Next Pro, and it is a field that is on top of a parking deck. So
wow.
I mean, you want to talk beauty of the Open Cup, brother? That is a field that was constructed at the top of a parking structure because they didn't have any room to put it. So it's like, all right, we'll put it here, and we'll put like fences and netting around it. So the balls don't go off onto campus. And honestly, and Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com was on with us yesterday, and he said, honestly, if you hit the ball out of play in the right location, it will go into the parking structure underneath the field, and you'll have to go and try and find it. So ain't no way.
I got to check that out. I got to check that out. That sounds right down my alley when it comes to U.S. Open Cup experience.
And so they had the win last night against Colorado Springs, and so they get New Mexico United next. So that will be interesting there. But magic of the Open Cup, and last night it took a while for Seattle and Lou City, and we had this one circled as one that might be trouble because of what Danny Cruz has done at Lou City. And you end up with goals from Paul Rothrock, Danny Masofsky to get you the 2-0 lead. Then Lou City comes back with a PK in the 67th and then a goal in the 89th. Nothing happens in the extra 30. You go to PKs, and you're up until an ungodly hour. God forbid, those of us on the East Coast would watch it. We'd probably be up to like 1:30 in the morning. But magic of the Open Cup, you got a rough one, and you got out of it to advance to the next round.
Yeah, I knew there was going to be a difficult one, not just because Louisville is a really good team. They're well coached, and you saw that throughout this game. You knew that they were going to have a lot of guys behind the ball. The 3-man backline is more of a 5-man backline. But just Starfire has been a difficult place for U.S. Open Cup and the Seattle Sounders. Call it what you will. Some things is the curse after the red wedding and all of these things, but it's just hard. Last time I was there was very similar, but it was against San Jose. It all went to PKs, but San Jose ended up winning it in the penalty kick shootout. In this one, it was maybe a little even more frustrating just because it looked like Seattle was gonna win it in 90. It seemed like everything was going their way. But before I go into the result and the PKs, let's go into some of the players, because I know that when those who maybe have not been following either the Tacoma Defiance or Seattle Sounders in general, they saw 15 minutes of Georgie and were just amazed, and they were asking for him to be a starting player and taking time completely from Leo Chu. Some even called to bench Jordan Morris for Georgie. And I just feel like sometimes that's an unfair expectation for a kid like this. And although I do agree that he's got a lot of potential and he should be getting some minutes, yesterday was the perfect explanation to those who don't see him often of where he needs some polishing. Georgie is a fun player, and those of us here at the beat or the people who really followed his team up close, those there like Jeremiah and myself who are there every day, we've known Georgie for a while from the Tacoma Defiance and this preseason in Spain with this team. He shined. And if you talk to the first team players, they'll tell you exactly what he's good at. But there is some polishing that needs to be done. You saw it yesterday, wait on the ball on passing, field awareness, just vision of play. The pass that he gets into for Paul Rothrock's goal is great, but that's maybe the 5th or 6th attempt he gets on that. A few of those did not just go his way, but they were just too hard. One is a pass back that ends up to a counter for Louisville. So let's give this kid room to grow, room to polish. He's good. There's a lot of potential there. Another message that I got was this is going to be another situation like Sam Adeniran. Look, Sam looked more first team ready than Georgie at this specific point in time, but this kid's going to be good. He's athletically gifted. When he's going downfield, he does it well. I like defiant players. I'm South American, man. I love the flair. I love the shiftiness and the willingness of just taking on a player one-on-one. But there's more to soccer than just those specific things. So let's let him grow. I think he's going to be a player that eventually will get a first-team call-up contract, not just a call-up. So he is on his way, but he's just not quite there. Andrew Thomas stole the show completely in the PK shootouts. As soon as the extra time was about to be finished, I was this close to tweeting, I would bet everything in my bank account that Seattle goes through, and it's thanks to the Andrew Thomas show. I didn't. It's all right. Jackson Phelps from KJR, we had this conversation on Tuesday. Andrew Thomas is that guy when it comes to PKs. Okay. People don't realize that being a PK stopper is a science. It's a DNA. It's a chip. Just like it's with goal scorers, penalty kicks stopping. You can be a great goalkeeper and be really bad at PKs, and you could be a so-so keeper and be really good at PKs. And Andrew's very good. He stole the show. 4 saves in the penalty kick shootouts. Not just that, but then has the courage to ask for the ball in that final shot to put it away. So my applause to him. I praise this kid because some players don't shy away from the light and some look for that light. And that's what Andrew did, baby. He was there to show who he was, put that ball in, got Sounders through. So applause to him. Other honorable mentions in terms of MVP, because I think that Andrew stole the show. Danny Leyva, really, really good with his passing. Every single set piece had some danger, some nastiness to it. Paul Rothrock, he's a guy that just knows where to be at the right time. He's another guy that has some nastiness to him. He has a really good read of the field in the goal he scores. He never gives up the play, knows where to be, puts it away. And then Cody Baker. He's got a little gangster to him, some little Drago gangsterness to him. It's like that if he dies, he dies. I mean, the kid he's a quiet killer. He's a quiet killer, and man, he body checks this guy on a 50-50 ball, and then he stands over him, talks some smack, bounces out. This kid is interesting as well. Another one that needs some polishing, but I like his demeanor and his approach to the game. So there it is. There's what I needed to say about this game. Another point that maybe was heavily conversated here is the lineup. I still don't understand how people are still amazed or surprised that young players for first teams get a shot in this one. That's what the Open Cup's about. That's what this round is about, is seeing your players develop. There were some first team players like Alex Roldan, who had a so-so day, Josh Atencio. So it's a mix. And that's what you're going to get every single time from these MLS sites. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we had that with Atlanta United going up against Charlotte Independence out of USL League One, in the mix of young kids, some getting the call up like the day before. It's like, dude, I got an injury. You're hopping in. We had some of those moments, but yeah, it's about the mix and seeing how the younger players interact in these kinds of moments where your future in a cup tournament is on the line. And so you get to see how these young players act and react in these situations. You mentioned shootouts. And while you mentioned that Andrew Thomas is a shootout specialist, the PK shootout specialist, there is another individual that is even better, an even better shootout specialist, but it has to do with 35-yard run-ups, and it's not quite from the spot. It's our gentleman Garth Lagerwey, he is the number one save percentage leader in the history of the run-up shootout in Major League Soccer. 66% save percentage, saving 2 out of every 3 in the old run-up shootout. Garth Lagerwey, man, that's your piece of trivia for today.
I like it. I believe it. And I mean, if it wasn't his presence, it was the hair back then. But either way, you were getting distracted.
Yes, absolutely. And so Garth has the number one save percentage. I want the run up back as a shootout. That to me was always fun. But yeah, you mentioned the mix of all of the youth and experience that's there. I mean, it was Musovski, Rothrock, Tevez, Minungu, Danny Leva, Josh Atencio, Cody Baker, a little gangsta Cody Baker, I guess is probably, we have to say that now all as one word. You got John Bell, Stuart Hawkins, Alex Rodon, and Thomas going up against that USL Championship side. And it's interesting to see these mixes and who steps up in these moments, and to have the build that Seattle has always had with the youth to come through the system and be ready. And we were talking about it with Atlanta United this morning, where Atlanta United seems to be developing into center back university, where if you're developing for Atlanta United, it's at the back. Over time with Seattle, it's pretty much been the same, where you go out and you spend money on the high-priced attackers to help you out up front, but the development comes from the back forward, if that makes any sense. Am I reading that right with Seattle and their history?
I get what you're going. I think it's pretty balanced.
Okay.
I know you're probably talking about Sam Rogers and now Stuart Hawkins, who 17-year-old who gets to start yesterday, very promising, but obviously had some issues yesterday, which were expected from a young player like that. There has been some quality right backs, left backs, Cody Baker being part of them, Reed Baker Whiten. So yes, there is definitely that. But then there's also the Josh Atencios and the Leyvas and Ocampo Chavez's, and there's been other players that have come up. I think there's a lot of balance and very obvious because of the volume of talent that the Sounders pick up from their academies, right. the way that they grow them. And so, I think it's pretty balanced, but Seattle has, spent some money when it comes to the center back position as well, with Javier Arriaga at one point, with Yamar Gomez Andrade locking that down, bringing Chad Marshall in. I mean, there's definitely been a good balance mix of it. I think when it comes to this Sounders pipeline, it's just best available player of where you're at. You're going to get your chance. You're going to get developed. Tacoma Defiance is going to put you ready for the big leagues whenever it is necessary. You're going to get a 2-day contract where you're going to come up, you're going to do some things, get to show what you got, and that's all part of it. But I don't think they zero down in a specific position, although defenders, if we go throughout the whole back line, maybe there's been a big surge over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was gravitating, because you get to see you get to see a Jackson Reagan, you get to see an Obed Vargas, you get to see. I didn't know where the mix was when it came to development over recent years. Where with Atlanta United, you're seeing the growth from the academies come from the back that stay, and you have a George Bello who comes through and develops, and then he goes overseas. But you've got the folks back with Atlanta United right now. It's like center back university. It's like if you're looking for stuff at the back, you're looking at Atlanta United for the folks to get things done at CBU. It's that time where we go straight into cliffhanger, and we were doing the math this week. 11 teams have not won on the road this season, most of them in the Eastern Conference. But it's just stunning to see that, we're at turn one heading into the backstretch, the first backstretch piece of the Speedway here. And 11 teams have not won on the road this season in Major League Soccer. So I'll go ahead and lead off, because our friends at Odds Portal, they believe in doing things alphabetically. And I cannot believe it took me 3 years to figure this out, that they do things alphabetically when it comes to the home team. I cannot believe it took me that long to figure it out. I would have said Atlanta United's first at 7:30. I don't know why this is. But they do it alphabetically. Atlanta United, DC United north of plus 300 coming to town. Atlanta United a minus 139. What do you think?
Ooh, man, Atlanta has been tough to watch because they seem to create opportunities, create chances, and don't get the final product in. Gigi has cooled off a little bit. I think that Silva is a huge missing component there. I've told you about Almada, man. Look, I think that there's a lot of talent there, and there's no doubt about that. He was last season, but there are times where he just doesn't give you enough for what the ceiling in his kid is, and I'm not sure what it is exactly. But it just hasn't come through defensively as well, regardless of the coaching and the talent. Just at times it seems to be a little bit difficult on just effort for the ball and 50-50 balls. Minnesota's game was the perfect example of this, in a Minnesota team that is very odd, very difficult to play. But in this one particularly, I could see them having a bounce back game. I think DC, if we learned anything from the Sounders game, is that they have some holes in the back and they are subjective to counters, and that's something that potentially Atlanta can exploit, and something that Atlanta is good at. I feel like that midfield needs to be a lot quicker, and that turnaround in that transition play just has to be a lot more decisive. But I think this could be a bounce back game for Atlanta. I don't know if I would take it on the juice boxes, but I think Atlanta can definitely win this one.
So speaking of juice boxes, Messi and friends go north of the border and they play CF Montreal. CF Montreal, their sporting director basically told Joey Saputo, "Peace out, Boy Scout," and I'm done. So Inter Miami comes to town at a minus 115. CF Montreal, who is offensively challenged, is at a plus 282. I'm thinking you're looking at a total here. I think that's what you're looking at with a number north of the border, not necessarily the juice boxes at a minus 115.
Yes, I would like to. I would like to see the goal breakdown rather than anything that have to do with winning either one of these teams, because you're not going to get enough out of going for Inter Miami. There's no way you'll convince me to get on the Montreal boat. Even a draw. It's difficult to look at Montreal because I like the coaching. I like some of the pieces. You've seen glimpses of what they could do with this specific group, and then they just have terrible games and games where it all falls apart for them. And we got to see it firsthand here at Lumen, but it's definitely one of those things where you don't know which Montreal you're going to get, but with how hot Miami has been and how in sync they seem to be at this point in time, it'd be difficult not to take in. But what's the breakdown on the goals?
3.5 is plus 130 for the over. 4 is plus 222. 4.5 is a plus 286.
I'll take it at the 3.5.
Okay.
I wouldn't take it beyond that, just because there are some injury concerns that I could see in Miami downshifting if they were to get a lead.
Yeah.
Obviously, the schedule gets pretty excruciating here on out, so you might get some kids playing these games, and it could just lessen that ability. But I feel comfortable with the 3.5 in that one for sure.
Red Bulls hosting the Revs, big favorite at home in New Jersey. Purple team goes to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a minus 109. The purple team at the bottom of the East is a plus 273.
Oof. I like the draw on this one. What's the draw on this?
And the composite, basically the same thing, a plus 271 on average.
Yeah, I'll take that draw. Look, Orlando City is probably the biggest disappointment for me this season. I had them winning the East. I had them just dominating MLS over in Miami, and that'll tell you enough about where my predictions have gone this year. But in reality, it just hasn't worked, and Galessa seems to have taken a step back. He's having some difficulties, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's been a lack of confidence. There's been misread plays. In the last game, at least they show some character. They go down the man. They're able to stay in the game, and they got real quality guys with speed like Angulo. But it all goes back to just those defining players just not doing enough. And I'm done waiting for Facundo Torres. I'm deciding that this is just the player who's going to be his career, just a little bit inconsistent, and that's just not good enough. Maguire, if he's not getting any services, what else can you ask from the kid? I mean, he'll finish, but he's got to get the ball at a certain point. Defensively, they handle things, but they do have issues when it comes to reacting to through balls, and that's just been a concern. So I could see this being a draw because they're two teams that are having difficulties this season, that they have holes in their game, that at times looks very stagnant. So I'm going to go with the draw in this one.
Okay. Charlotte and Nashville, overlooked by a lot of folks, understandably so. Charlotte's favorite on the plus side at a plus 104. Toronto FC, probably an early surprise on the Eastern Conference, is an underdog at home to NYCFC at a plus 179. Your draw's a plus 238. I might look there.
Give me that one. Give me Toronto over New York City. New York City has yet to fix the problems up top. I know that they got a good stretch of wins, and you thought that it was all fixed and dandy, but then you go against Colorado, you cannot score. You create chances, and Santi Rodriguez gets tired of volume play and getting you there, and Ojeda does well. But Baccarat just does not look like the guy that's going to be your guy. He's going to need 8 to score 1, and it's just not good enough for New York City FC. They've had a impossible task to replace Tati Castellanos, and that's normal, right? I mean, getting a guy like Tati is difficult, but at least substituting Moneyballish from your wing backs or your creative players. And Santi has done some of that. Santi, you cannot fault Santi Rodriguez because he does that. He finishes what he gets. He's a guy that is good on set pieces, but they're just not enough for New York City FC. And Toronto, with their very simple, grindy, Toronto-ish style of play, I think they're going to pull this one. So I'll take them as the home underdog all day, every day.
Plus 179 in the composite. Hell is real. Columbus and Cincinnati. Columbus favored on the minus side at a minus 118. Draws a plus 267. And FC Cincinnati to win on the road at the Death Stars, north of plus 305.
Wow.
Draw, plus 267.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the draw. That's exactly what I was looking at. And look, Cincinnati, man. Cincinnati up top has struggled, man. And, ever since I heard of, Bapuenza getting his jaw broken by a pro boxer? Is that what it was?
Yeah. But the thing is that you're at a pizza joint What is it we always say? Nothing good happens when you're hanging out after 1 a.m. It was 2 a.m. The pizza joint was closing. Aaron Bupenza apparently had a beef with a dude who's a pro boxer, got his jaw caved in. I feel like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Glass jaw. and he's out 6-8 because of a late night, early morning shenanigan. And so what else is going to happen with FC Cincinnati? But hell is real. I got to go draw. That's what I'm looking
Yeah, I got to go draw as well. And look, if there's a team that can disconnect and limit and contain Lucho, it's Columbus, because Nancy is just that guy. He's going to create this bracketing system to just hold and limit Lucho. And no Lucho, no fun. I mean, this guy he's the everything for Cincinnati right now, right? Baird has been okay, hasn't been the guy that he was last season necessarily. And honestly, they have yet to really replace Vasquez. I like Arellano. I think he's done a good job on that side, doing some Barrialish things, but there's just not enough from the Cincinnati team on the offense. They can do it defensively. They're still well coached. They're still organized. But in order to beat Columbus, you got to have a little bit of a right hook. You got to have a little bit of punch. And I don't think Cincinnati has it.
Now, that happened to Bupenza.
Hey, no pun intended, but he kind of came out. I like it.
You're right.
Wow. All right. That's good. Okay.
No Lucho, no party. FC Dallas, Austin, Copatejas, Dallas is favored. Sporting is favored after surviving the Murder Owls of Union Omaha going up against the Dynamo. They're on the plus side. All Caps at home favored against Chicago Fire. Turn the page. Rapids at home against San Jose. They better be. LAFC at home, big favorite against Vancouver. LAG and RSL. RSL loses in Open Cup in the midweek. Goals by Fidel Barajas and Diego Luna. But RSL goes to LAG late night Saturday, the last one on Saturday night.
And what the numbers on that? And yeah, I saw that New Mexico game. That's what happens when you get a team that has nothing to lose, and they understand the assignment, and they get goals early, and they put you on your heels and break your will, and that's what happened. And in reality, I think RSL, to be quite honest, it's focused on MLS. They see where they are in the standings. They see an opportunity to win the West. I think they absolutely can. They're at this point my favorite to do so. Although I'm not gonna lie, they were my second in the preseason rankings. But I really do believe that RSL is thinking more of MLS, and they weren't too upset about getting bounced out of the U.S. Open Cup. Although the coach would never admit that, and I know that you want to win every tournament and yada yada yada. But I feel like if you really wanted to win this, it might be a blessing in disguise, because this team should be focused on MLS.
LAG's a minus 103. Your draw's a plus 268. RSL's a plus 257. You want to know totals?
Yes, please give me total, but I'm taking RSL right there. Plop, putting the mark on it. RSL in this one. But let me see the composite of the goals, because I might double up on this one.
3's a minus 128. 3.5 is a plus 123. That's when it turns.
Oof. I might double it up just with the 3.5 and the RSL. But I like him. And I think Galaxy is a good team. But you saw in Seattle the need for specific players. I know Rick will be back. I'm not sure if Delgado will. I don't think so. And
don't know about the Bishop either, Jovic.
Don't know about Jovic, exactly. And look, Barry can do a lot of things, and he has a lot of effort, and he makes a lot of runs. But at the end of the day, when it comes to being a goal scorer, once again, I'll say it over and over again, you just need that different type of guy that knows where to be, when to be, and how to score. And that's Jovic. You don't have that guy, you're going to have some difficulties. Although, man, Greg, I have to say that Greg Vanny is a guy that I haven't had a lot of time to spend time with. And I know a lot of people don't like him. He rubs people the wrong way. But I had a real good conversation with him in the locker room. He had no need to come talk to me. Actually, the PR guy, Kevin Acevedo, called him accidentally. And they're like, hey, do you want this one-on-one? And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And he was just really cool dude. Sat down, talked. So nice guy, but I think in this one, RSL will take it. I'll take RSL in the 3.5.
All right. So then Cascadia is the last one on the board. It's the only one that is popping up on the schedules on Sunday, 4:45 Eastern. Juice boxers are just kind of like they threw a blanket over the whole thing. Either side to win's basically a plus 160, and your draw's a plus 242. So they don't know what's going on.
Give me a draw. Give me a draw on this one. I'll take the draw all day, every day. I could see this being a 2-2 game as well. So I don't know what the conversion is on goals, but if you have a 3.5, I'll probably take it there. Seattle has done well progressing the ball, putting the balls in prime scoring positions. Against LAG, they were very, very unlucky to have not scored at least one of those. And I'm not going to repeat it again. It does go back to quality. It does go back to just the form of the players that you currently have. And Albert Rust not necessarily giving you enough, and Leo Chu coming in and not doing enough, and having all of these opportunities inside the 18 and not putting enough shots on goal, on frame. Christian Roldan had one, Leo had one, Raul had one, Jordan had a few. So it's just a team that currently can't score. But at Portland, against a team that has been conceding a lot of goals, with a little bit of that incentive of this rivalry, Raul plays them well. I could see this being a 2-2 draw at Portland for Mother's Day, which it's inconvenient. The time is inconvenient. Everything about this Classico, which I won't be able to go to. I try to sell my wife on it. You know what would be nice? Sunday in Portland, baby. Let's go to Portland. It did not work. So I will not be at the game.
To answer your question, sir, so if you're thinking 2-2, I'll build up to it. 3 over-under is a plus 162. 3.5 is a plus 221. 4, if you say 2-2, 4 on the nose is a plus 357.
Ooh. Wow. You know what? Just because it's a gut feeling,
yeah,
I might go with that. I like those numbers. The draw plus the 4, that's happy juice boxes for me. Yeah.
All right. So what's going on at Pulso Sports on the Soccer Bar, which is coming up in short order?
Oh, yes, sir. Soccer Bar, we're going to be talking about a lot about what just happened in U.S. Open Cup. We're going to have the protagonist, of course, Dani Leyva, speaking about the game that was and how difficult it is to sometimes face teams that are going to go all out, physical play. So that's coming up on Soccer Bar on Pulso Sports YouTube. Do follow us for what's going to be the pre-game analysis of this Classico. Since I'm not going to be there, I'm going to make sure to get around and maybe talk to Brett Evans, talk to Coach Pete Fewing. I'll get somebody nice and important to come and talk about this matchup, about the form of the team, about what just happened here in U.S. Open Cup. So on Friday, you should have a real good pre-game analysis of Portland versus Seattle.
All right, my friend, as always, great to catch up with you at El Rolo NW. Go get a nap or at least a half hour and make sure that your alarm gets set because we don't want you to miss anything. Be safe, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
I might get a third cup or just start injecting this thing into my bloodstream. But thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure. Have a good one.
All right, be good, my friend. That is Niko. Before we go, Doug Robertson of the AJC is at training this morning, dodging, hopefully, thunder and lightning. And he's reporting that Stian Gregerson is out for Saturday. Not necessarily a surprise, considering that if it was a concussion sub that Stian Gregerson had, that was what it was exercised for. You've got to go through protocol. And considering that it happened in the midweek, you've got to get ready for the weekend. And so, could be a combination of Abram and Noah and Efren Morales, line one. So, do not be surprised if your back line is Wiley, Abram, Noah, and Brooks Lennon. So, we'll see. But that's just my gut after what we got the news from Doug Robertson of the AJC. Stian Gregerson out for the matchup against DCU. Noon Eastern, 45 minutes from now. We're going to go Soccer's in Session Live. We'll go through what has happened so far. Brian Messer, the assistant head coach for McIntosh, joining us right out of the blocks, and he will discuss, weather permitting, McIntosh and Decatur. and we will go over what happened yesterday. Westminster beats Johnson Gainesville. Jason was on the call for that one, and we will recap that. Another title for another Blue Blood in Westminster. Johnson Gainesville getting to the last match of the year as well. And we'll go over all of the results that have happened so far. Big day yesterday. 3 venues, 6 champions crowned. We'll go over all of that. Brian Messer will bat lead off. We'll see if we can get Maddie on, if not Maddie and Luke, before Maddie turns to graduation. So we'll go through all of that. Once again, top of the hour back here. It is Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. So thanks to all of our guests this morning. Thanks to Bart for putting up with all of the rambling. And as always, it's a Thursday with Niko, so it's always great to have El Rolo and W hanging out with us as well, courtesy of our friends at Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar. So tomorrow, Beyond Goals, hopefully they can join us at 9:30. Jason joining us at 10. And we'll get you ready for the weekend and get you ready on a couple of different fronts for everything that's been going on. Then Soccer's in Session Live again to get you ready for the 7A finals, and we'll put a recap on everything else in the season when it comes to the high school soccer activities here in the state of Georgia. At official GHSA Soccer Championships, weather permitting today, could make things oddly interesting for tomorrow if things get pushed back, if championships happen, if they don't, if weather, plays with the activity at 5 and 7:30 at the 2 venues today. So GAC Cambridge, McIntosh, Decatur, Roswell, Marist, Sprayberry, River Ridge, Jess, Jason, Justin Hanover, and Jared Smith. So that's what it's looking like coming up later today. So noon, Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've gone through Thursday. Stay dry, stay safe, turn around, don't drown. So just be safe, and we'll be back here at the top of the hour. Hutch says it's raining out, and yes, make sure that you are prepared to make sure that you stay as dry as possible, and make sure that you have your galoshes, your coats, and your umbrellas to make sure that you are safe going from point A to point B today. So I'll be back here once again in about 40 minutes. We'll do Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. We'll take you through everything going on in the world of the GHSA Soccer Championships. Mucha plati, y'all play it safe, and since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. See you before you know it. We'll talk high school soccer at noon Eastern.